G'day, my name is Rob Malicki. I am the founder of the Global Society, the co-founder of AIM Overseas, and most importantly to you today, I am on the Australian Government's new Colombo Plan reference group, the official group that has provided support to the Australian Government in the formation and implementation of the new Colombo Plan. For today, my first message to you is congratulations, because you're watching this video because you've been nominated to apply for the most phenomenal experience that you're possibly going to have during your entire time at university, and that is to become a new Colombo Plan Scholar. Now, what does that mean? What that means is actually the opportunity to go and spend time studying and working and learning the language in a country somewhere in the Asia-Pacific region. It's amazing. The support is absolutely phenomenal, and this is an opportunity that will actually set you up for the rest of your life. So congratulations on getting this far. Now, this video is actually to help you to prepare your application for the new Colombo Plan Scholarship. We're going to dive right in. I've got plenty of good information for you. I look forward to walking you through all of this process. So let's get started. All right, let's get started. So to begin with, you might not actually know what the new Colombo Plan Scholarship program is all about. Every university is slightly different in the way that they nominate students to actually apply for the scholarship program. So your university may have had an open application round, so you may have already completed some form of application, but equally possible is that you don't actually know what the NCP is all about because your university has looked at your credentials and said, you're an awesome student, you've got a great chance of winning this scholarship, we should put you forward. Either way, congratulations on getting this far, because for you to be nominated as one of the limited number of students that your Australian university is allowed to nominate for a scholarship means that you're already like one of the most incredible students at your institution. So thumbs up. So what's the new Colombo Plan Scholarship program all about? Well, fundamentally, the first part of it is about you having a study experience in the Asia-Pacific region. So you're going to have to spend somewhere between 1 semester and 2 semesters, 6 months or a year, studying at a university somewhere in the Asia-Pac. That's incredible if you think about the range of countries inside the region and the range of universities that you could potentially study at. It's mind-boggling. On top of that, the scholarship also gives you the opportunity of undertaking a period of work, an internship, at a company somewhere inside the region. And that company, that work experience, doesn't even have to be in the same country where you study. So you can actually go to multiple destinations inside the Asia-Pac to get incredible study and incredible work experience on your resume before you even leave university. It's amazing. And finally, it allows for you to also undertake language study, which is part of like going and studying at a university overseas, increasing your skills and your knowledge about the country that you're going to. The new Colombo Plan is all about deepening Australia's engagement with the Asia-Pacific, building people-to-people linkages and a whole bunch of other amazing stuff. So congratulations on getting this far. Now let's jump into some of the things that you need to think about when you're preparing your actual application for the scholarship program. Okay, so what do you need to do in order to apply for the new Colombo Plan Scholarship program? Now you will receive information about how to do this. But first thing to note is that time is quite limited. So normally between the time you're actually nominated for a new Colombo Plan Scholarship to be allowed to apply, you've essentially got like a month to get your application together. So time is absolutely of the essence. And you've got quite a number of steps that you need to get completed in that time. Firstly, you are going to have to complete a written online application for the program, and that also includes you submitting a number of references from people who know you well, as well as submitting some additional documents that you may need to go and get prepared. So first thing is that this is going to take some time for you to get your application together and to do a really good job of it. This is literally Australia's most prestigious scholarship program. So it's incredibly important for you to take the time to apply and do your best with the application. It's not just something that you can fudge. And the starting point for you is actually to read the new Colombo Plan Scholarship Guidelines. Now you can find these on the internet very easily just by jumping on Google and Googling New Colombo Plan Scholarship Program Guidelines. And there it'll actually pull up all of the information that you need to know about the current round of new Colombo Plan Scholarships. So that's your starting point. Do that like now, like hit pause on this video and get on there and Google New Colombo Plan Scholarship Guidelines, because that's the first thing you're going to need to do if you're going to submit an absolutely kick-butt application. All right, so before we go on to talk about the selection criteria, I wanted to tell you why you should be listening to me anyway. For the last 15 years, since I went and had my own international study experience, I've been passionate about supporting young Australians to have international study experiences, because it's just the most phenomenal, life-changing experience. This opens your mind, it sets you up for your career, it's an addition to your resume. It's just the most phenomenal, impactful experience. So being on the New Colombo Plan reference group has been a phenomenal privilege, but more than even just being on the reference group, I've actually sat on the interview panels for various country scholarship applications for the last few years, basically since the interviews have been happening, which means I've seen an absolute ton of applicants throughout that time, both the written applications as well as the people who've actually been interviewed. So what I want, as somebody who's passionate about this experience, who wants you to succeed, is that you have the best possible chance of making it to that interview situation where you can then shine in front of the interview panel. But in order to get to that point, you actually need to submit an awesome written application. And so that's what this is all about. So let's talk about the selection criteria. Now, this is once again all written in those guidelines, and you can Google right down here, remember to get the guidelines. All of these selection criteria are there, and I strongly recommend that you read these and read them closely and double read them and triple read them to make sure you understand what exactly it is that the New Colombo Plan team is looking for in your written application. Now, before you actually make it to an interview, your application, your written application, is going to be assessed by a team. So yes, this is a competitive process where the way that you write, the way that you put yourself forward, the references that you pull together to support your application are what are going to get you actually to that interview. And so spending the time to do this really well is what's going to make all of the difference. So the selection criteria. Well, first and foremost, it's about academic excellence. You wouldn't be nominated for a New Colombo Plan Scholarship if you didn't have great academic marks already. Beyond academic marks, you need to have demonstrated leadership in the community. So leadership can be many things. Have you done some volunteering? Have you been a sports coach? Have you been involved in different associations and different societies and things like that? That's what leadership is. Leadership has got many different forms, and as part of your application, you are going to be asked to actually define those sort of things that you've been involved in, and to explain why those are actually relevant to your application. Adaptability and resilience. In most cases, most people going off on New Colombo Plan scholarships haven't necessarily even been to the country where they're potentially going to go. So you're going to have this incredible immersive experience which is going to absolutely transform you. And what the New Colombo Plan team want to know is, how do we know that you're going to be adaptable and resilient in the face of all of that change? You do get change. It's amazing. It's impactful on you. What in your past, in your history, has prepared you for that kind of change and has made you resilient and adaptable? That's the sort of stuff that you need to be able to explain as part of your application. And finally, and this is maybe one of the points that gets overlooked by plenty of applicants, the New Colombo Plan is an enormous investment by the Australian government in the potential in the Asia-Pacific literacy of our young people. That investment needs to see some kind of return down the track. And by that, they mean, what kind of impact are you going to have your experience, what kind of impact will your experience create for Australia? Wow, it sounds massive, right? It sounds absolutely massive. But that can apply in so many different ways. It could be the different organisations you get involved in, the different professional and personal networks that you establish as part of your program, the connections that you build between organisations whilst you are abroad. There are so many different ways that your experience, your individual, unique experience on the New Colombo Plan Scholarship Program can benefit Australia. And you're going to need to pull those threads out and have that in your application as well. That wasn't just for dramatic effect. I'm going to explain to you why this ream of paper is so important in just a moment. But firstly, let's talk a little bit about what the New Colombo Plan Secretariat will look at when they actually assess your application. Now, first and foremost, of course, they're going to look at the way that you respond to the selection criteria. So that's what we were just talking about in terms of, your academic excellence, your contribution and leadership in the community, your resilience and your adaptability, as well as your ability to think outside yourself and to tell us very clearly what value you'll provide to Australia as a result of participating on the New Colombo Plan Scholarship. But outside of that, the New Colombo Plan Secretariat also sets other priorities that they may look at from time to time, and these might vary from year to year depending on the priorities of the government and of the actual program itself. This will look at things like a preference, for example, for longer experiences. So it's a belief of the New Colombo Plan program that the longer you spend in a country, the deeper the relationships and the linkages are that you will form there. And obviously that has incredibly high value, not just for you, but for Australia as a country. So longer experiences are certainly preferenced. Other things that are important to the program, making sure you absolutely undertake a work or internship or mentorship experience whilst you're abroad. Participating in language study is important. And then one of the most important factors at the present time is around diversity in the program. So for example, what the plan doesn't want to achieve is having 120 of Australia's best and brightest all going to the same university in Hong Kong or in Japan or in Singapore. Diversity is really important, and that means diversity in the range of countries to which scholars go, the institutions to which they go, the institutions which they come from. So there are never going to be 100 scholars that all come from one particular Australian university. It's going to come from a range of Australian universities. A diversity of background, so different historical heritage, cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, Indigenous, non-Indigenous backgrounds, discipline backgrounds. So once again, the NCP is not going to send 120 engineers on programs. They're looking for a range of disciplines. So wherever you can harness diversity in your application at this current time is going to be advantageous to you. So let's talk a little bit more about that. When you lodge your application, you're going to have to actually write responses to the selection criteria. These are all specified inside the guidelines. Once again, that's why you need to go and obtain the guidelines and read those first and foremost before you do anything else. But once you've actually read the guidelines and you start to think about how you're going to respond to questions about leadership and academic excellence and these sorts of things, you also need to start to plan out what you're actually going to do when you're overseas. Let's talk a little bit more about that. All right, well, let's talk about unique propositions. And this is where our reflex paper comes in, our ream of paper. Now, as a interview panel member, I'll typically read somewhere between 25 and 30 written applications. Now, each of those applications is somewhere between like 15 and 20 pages long, which essentially means that I, as an interview panel member, will read about that much volume of applications. Now, the thing is that not all people who apply will actually be selected for an interview, which means when you consider how many reams of paper people inside the Secretariat actually have to read in terms of assessing all of the applications, it's actually a huge, huge volume of paper and a volume of applications. And what's incredible about that is that there are so many phenomenal young Australian people, including you, that are applying for this scholarship program. So how are you going to stand out? Well, climb up a tree. You know what? One of the things that I'm passionate about in life is actually climbing trees. Go figure. So for me, this is like a point of difference, that I actually love climbing trees, and this is something that is part of who I am. And that's actually an essence that you want to try and capture in some way in your application. So what does that mean? Well, first and foremost, let's think about your actual program, so what you're applying to go and do. The New Colombo Plan allows you to study at universities in the Asia-Pacific. It allows you to intern or work in different companies and allows you to undertake language study. you can let your mind go absolutely wild in terms of where you're going to go and what you want to do in terms of the way that aligns with your personal mission. Now, it's okay if, for example, you haven't ever thought about, where you want to end up. Some people are absolutely blessed with that somewhat magical ability to say, like, I'm going to end up over there in 20 years' time. But let's be honest, that's not everybody. And when you're in university, you might not have actually figured out yet what you want to finish in terms, what you want to, complete in terms of your degree, or, where you want to end up in 10 or 15 years' time. That's okay. But what are you passionate about? What are you interested in right now? And more so than that, if you're going to go and study and work or intern or study the language somewhere in the Asia-Pacific, where are you going to go and why? Now, if we back up a step and we think about what I was talking about a few minutes ago in terms of diversity, diversity is incredibly important to this program. So there are a lot of people who want to go and do law at a high-end law firm in Hong Kong. Yeah, there are plenty of people who want to go to China and Japan and Singapore and a few of the other countries inside the region. But the Asia-Pacific is enormous. You've got these incredible countries that have very good education systems, incredible working opportunities, whether that's in businesses or non-profits or government organisations. So many amazing opportunities. And those types of opportunities are accessible to you as part of your new Colombo Plan experience. So as you are designing your program, think about what interests you right now, okay? Because nobody expects that you have your entire future mapped out. A few people do, good for them. And if you're one of those people, you're super lucky, you can be very specific. But if you're not, what you want to do is to draw the link between the stuff that you're interested in right now, why you want to go to a particular place, university, country, business, language inside the Asia Pacific, and to draw those connections together, maybe not knowing what the end point is, because the new Colombo Plan experience that you'll have is going to blow your mind. You're going to meet so many people and make so many connections. I would be incredibly surprised if it doesn't in some way change the direction that you set out anyway. So when you write that program, think about diversity. You don't have to just go to the most obvious places. Think about places like India or Sri Lanka or Myanmar or Bhutan, Nepal, Fiji, Thailand. They're incredible countries in the Asia Pacific where you can go and study and you can intern and work and learn the language. Once again, remember that you can actually go to multiple countries as part of this experience. Think about that in terms of diversity and in terms of your own interests and building out that program. Because honestly, we see so many applications, and what's going to make your program stand out? Is it keeping it standard and safe, or is it being adventurous and trying to push yourself further? I can tell you that when you're thumbing through 500 or 600 pages of applications, the ones that stand out are the people who've really thought clearly about what they want to do and how that potentially impacts them. Not impacts them in 20 years, but impacts them right now. When I was at university, I did a semester exchange program where I went abroad. But in the lead up to that, I actually worked at one point 7 different jobs in order to save up for that experience. And those jobs were kind of really wild and varied. I worked in a butcher shop cleaning up after hours. Not the coolest job ever, but paid pretty well in cash. I also worked in a biology lab where I dissected birds. There we go. I was a national level soccer referee, which was kind of cool actually. I guess one of the things I never really expected to do in my life was breaking up fights of grown men who were like twice my size and twice my age, but go figure. And what did I just do there? I told a story. When you write your application for the new Colombo Plan Scholarship program, what you should really be thinking about doing is telling stories about your background and about your aspirations. Because if you think about it, what captures people's attention isn't so much like the dot point, this is something I've done, another dot point, this is another thing I've done, dot point, leadership position that I had. all that stuff is good. And to be honest, as somebody who has to read resumes and has to go through all those applications, that is actually fantastic in terms of being able to quickly and easily skim through and hit some highlights. But what really captures people's attention and what resonates with people are stories. So as you prepare your application for your new Colombo Plan Scholarship program, you need to think about the stories that you're going to tell. Now, not everybody has had access to the same range of opportunities in their life. So not everybody has got crazy stories about backpacking around Europe or the time that they were on the UN Youth Committee for something or other. And you know what? That's okay. Everyone has their own unique story, and you have a unique story too. As part of your application, you want to bring out that unique story so that person who's sitting and reading your application after they've just read 30 or 40 other applications reads yours and goes, wow, that's kind of cool. I've never met somebody before who's had that kind of set of circumstances. One of the amazing applications that I remembered from a past year was a student who'd had incredible challenges in his life. He'd grown up in a broken family, there was drugs and alcohol around, and his grades weren't the best. And you know what? He absolutely owned it in his application. He actually didn't try and back away from his failures, but he embraced them because, let's face it, we've all stuffed something up. Nobody is perfect. And if you can embrace those failures and you can bring out the things that you have learned from your experiences, whatever those experiences might be, you're going to shine because that's your story and you need to own your story. So when you write your new Colombo Plan application, own your story and tell stories about it. So when it comes to academic excellence as something that you need to talk about, don't just tell us about the class that you took where you got a 99. What we really want to know, like we can see that stuff in your transcript and we understand it. What we want to know is like the nuances behind that, the story behind the obvious stuff. Because if we can resonate with you, we can appreciate you, we can see where you're heading and what your potential is. And that's what's really exciting for people who are on these interview panels and for the NCP Secretariat who have to assess all of the applications up front. The final message is like, don't be afraid to own your story. It's so important that you're proud of your background and your history and you're able to tell that as it is. Blast! Okay, so we've talked about a whole bunch of different stuff. And there are going to be some other things that you need to prepare as part of your application. So yes, you have to prepare all of those kind of written responses to the questions. You've also got to prepare your program, what it is that you're hoping to do. What we haven't talked about so far are the references that you need to obtain, and you need to obtain 2 in order to submit your application. Now, the references are actually really important for you. This is people who are outside of like your family and friends, people you've worked with, or people who know you in some sort of like more formal capacity, who can tell the NCP Secretariat and the interview panel what you're all about and what you're really like as a person. So who you choose as your reference, as your referees, is actually really important. There's probably a temptation, like if you know some people who've got like a big famous name or something like that, to use those kind of people. But if I'm really honest, like actually seeing a big name on paper isn't so impressive for the people that sit on the interview panels. What's much more important are the details that that person can tell us about you, and making sure that those details that they tell us about you are congruent, they match what you've actually put into your application. So if you've known somebody your entire life, they've been a sports coach, for example, and they know that you're absolutely passionate about Thailand, and they can say that, you know, throughout your time as a junior and as a junior soccer coach, you went up to Thailand to work with, you know, Thai football teams, and that's congruent with your application about why you want to go to Thailand. That looks amazing because everything is harmonious and synchronizes, and that actually benefits your application so much more than just having like a big name on paper. Now, that's not to say that if you don't know people who've got impressive reputations that you shouldn't reach out to them as well. But remember that they have to submit their reference for you, and you want to know what's in that referee statement, you don't want to just be leaving things to chance. So unless you know somebody well and you're comfortable asking them to discuss what sort of things they might say about you inside a reference for you, you might want to think about who you choose. So once again, like, referees are incredibly important. We do read all of them, so think very carefully about who you're going to select. Don't pick your mum. That's not so impressive. Cheers. Coffee. All right, that's been fun. So let's summarise what I've been talking to you about today. Number one, when you go to submit your new Colombo Plan application, the first thing that you need to do is to make sure that you read and fully understand the guidelines for the new Colombo Plan Scholarship program. Go and do that straight away. The better you understand the guidelines, the better you're going to be able to adapt your responses to match what the new Colombo Plan is looking for. Number two, selection criteria. Read the selection criteria and make sure you understand exactly what's being asked in those questions. And then make sure that you think about the things that you've done in the past, or that you're currently doing, or that you're aspiring to do, that match those selection criteria. Number three is about diversity. Think about your background and where you have diversity in your background, or diversity in your interests in the things that you want to do, because that's a big topic of interest. Number four is think about your program and plan out exactly what it is that you're going to do as part of your new Colombo Plan Scholarship program. You're going to have to think about where it is that you want to go and study overseas, how long you're going to go study for, what kind of organisation are you going to go and work or intern for, what kind of people, who specifically, do you want to mentor you as part of your program overseas. You also want to think about language study. What's the language study that you're going to do, and where are you going to do it? Now, nobody is saying that that's an easy thing for you to go and work all of that out and to plan that out. Yes, it's going to take you some time. But what we're talking about here is a life-changing, a life-defining opportunity. And if you're not prepared to take that time right up front, then maybe this scholarship is not for you, and you should give somebody else the opportunity to do it. Is that the case for you? I don't think so. If you really want this, make sure you commit the time to doing your research and working out the most awesome possible plan that you can. Because what I love to see on interview panels is that people are so passionate about the plan that they've created. They're so into it that they say, you know what? I've created this plan for myself. I have a vision for where I'm going. And it doesn't matter if you give me this scholarship or not. I'm going to go and do this anyway. Because when we can see that in your heart, we know that you're committed to it. And that's incredibly powerful. So don't forget diversity. Think about the destination that you want to go to, the destinations that you might split your program across. It doesn't have to be the big famous or most popular places that people think of, like Hong Kong or Singapore or Japan. That's awesome if you want to go there, but I'm a bit of a mathematician, right? And I know that there are so many more applicants for those programs. If you want to go to a really unique country, you're going to be able to deliver your highest value, and you also increase the chances of you obtaining one of Australia's most prestigious scholarship for university students. Do your research and write the most amazing plan that you possibly can, because that will shine. Fifthly, references are important. Think very carefully about the people that you will choose to actually be your referee. That's an enormous privilege for them, and make sure you communicate clear with them about the timelines, as well as the sorts of things that they might be tempted to write about you inside a statement. The more closely you can align the references and your referees around your plan, the more congruent it is, and that's a resonance feeling. You know, it resonates with people who are reading applications. So getting that right is really important. Number 6 is make sure that you're a storyteller. We see heaps of facts, amazing, impressive people who've done tons of stuff, and that's you too. Make sure you tell your story. Be authentic, be true to yourself. Don't try and hide things or cover things up, or even more importantly, don't try and gloss up things that maybe aren't as glossy as they really are, because nothing will stand out to experienced interviewers than stuff that isn't authentic. Be yourself, be authentic, and let yourself shine. That's it from me. Finally, I really hope that I get to meet you on one of the interview panels as part of the new Colombo Plan Scholarship interview process. If you've gotten this far, it's because you're an amazing human being. You've got an amazing, incredible future in front of you, and I really hope that I get a chance to meet you on one of those interview panels. So, best of luck with your application, and just remember, you've got to make yourself stand out. Good luck. Lastly, if there's something that I could ask of you, I hope this video has provided you with some really good value about how to prepare your application for the new Colombo Plan Scholarship program. I'm passionate about helping Australian university students to study overseas, and that includes helping educate people about the kinds of opportunities that are available to them and why everyone from every kind of background should be able to have this incredible life-changing experience. My mission is to enhance lives through study and travel, because life is a daring adventure or nothing at all. If this video has delivered you even one skerrick of value, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can help more Australians have international study experiences. Thank you.